Banking shouldn't be hard, and it should be something that you go into a bank, you do everything online, and you shouldn't be charged with monthly service fees. So I was really surprised, maybe not so surprised, but I found some of the worst banks in America. In fact, I'm sharing 3 of them with you today. You might be a customer of theirs, and maybe you've not had any bad experiences with them, but if I'm looking at their checking and savings accounts for these 3 banks, it's a hard pass for me. Okay, let's take a look at the 3 worst banks in America. In my opinion, as I'm looking through these, you guys have got to be aware of any kind of service fees, monthly fees that these banks are charging, because banks should be able to work alongside with you, and it shouldn't feel like you are working against them. And as I was going through a comparison of these banks, I was seeing just how many hoops a customer had to jump through in order to avoid fees and actually park their money there and earn a little bit of interest. And spoiler alert, all of the banks here had literally 0.01, 0.04% in interest earnings on their savings accounts, which I think is absolutely absurd. There are way better banks. But let's go ahead and get into the worst list. We're starting with Chase Bank. Now, I personally have credit cards through Chase, but for this video, I'm specifically focused on their checking and savings accounts. So there are 3 options with a Chase checking account, and you'll see that there are no minimum deposits to open, which is fantastic. There is, however, a monthly service fee. $12 with Chase Total Checking, $4.95 fixed fee for Chase Secure Banking, and Chase Premier Plus Checking has $25 or 0. Now, you'll see this little button that says avoid fees. So there are typically, when these big banks are telling you about the fees and how to avoid them, there's typically multiple options. So in the case of the Total Checking, you have to have electronic deposits made into this account totaling $500 or more, and this is per month, or a balance at the beginning of each day of $1,500, or an average beginning day balance of $5,000. Now, if you're a customer who is constantly pulling money out of your checking account, like most of us are doing, we're doing multiple transactions, we're paying our mortgages out of our checking account or our rent payments, sometimes you may actually go beneath the $1,500 daily balance. You may go underneath the $5,000 balance if you're keeping that checking account balance close to 0. And keep in mind, money that's parked in a checking account typically does not bear any interest. So that's just one option out of that. Or you could do the secure banking, where it's a $5 monthly fixed fee. I just think it's so dumb. So $60 in the year that you're paying just for your checking account, when there are plenty of other banks that don't even charge monthly fees like this. Keep in mind that Chase Premier Plus Checking charges $25, but if you have a beginning day balance of $15,000 or more each month, then you can avoid that fee, or link a qualifying Chase First mortgage enrolled in automatic payments, or be a current or prior military member. So I think a lot of us would probably say, like, the Premier Plus Checking is probably not going to work for you unless you're military. It does have some of these other benefits, but I just find that working through some of these hoops is crazy, because also they actually showed me their clear and simple product PDF. So Chase said, actually, we do have a lot of rules and it may not make sense to put it all on a landing page. So we're just going to go ahead and create a PDF and put a little link buried in here, and maybe a customer will find it, but at least we can say we did the right thing by placing it on our website. This is a 4-page PDF that explains their total checking account product. I have no idea why Chase thought it would be beneficial to do a 4-page PDF. I do appreciate that they're putting all of this information in here, but a checking account should be very plain and simple. It's a simple banking product that should allow for 0 monthly maintenance fees, no minimum account deposit to open, and you shouldn't have all of these different daily account balances and those thresholds to meet. But Chase made it complicated, and that's why why I don't like them. They have these ATM fees, monthly service fees, overdraft fees, a $34 overdraft fee per transaction. But we won't charge an overdraft fee if boom, 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 boom. So again, it's just reading the fine print, and I find that when I'm thinking about opening a checking or savings account with a bank for the very first time, I want to know upfront exactly what those fees are, and while they laid it out in a PDF, I have to read all these teeny tiny bullet points and really understand when it is okay and when it's not okay and when I'm going to get charged. It's ridiculous. Let's take a look at their savings account. So dumb, so dumb. All balances have an annual percentage yield of 0.01%. This is ridiculous. I'd rather just put my money in the closet, hide it in the closet, than deal with this, because this is just insulting at this point. So Chase savings and Chase checking accounts, that's a no from me, dog. Let's go to the next one, Bank of America. Now, Bank of America customers, when you're talking about your checking accounts, there's also 3 options with them. You'll see that there are minimum opening deposits that you have to meet. A lot of times when you're working with other banks that are not predatory or charging you, you don't need to have a minimum opening deposit. But with Bank of America, it's either $25 or $100. Then there's a monthly maintenance fee of either $4.95 for the safe balance banking, $12 for the plus banking, and relationship banking, advantage relationship banking is $25 or $0. And then here's how you avoid those monthly maintenance fees. Each statement cycle, usually those statements are every 30 days, so you're going to have to make sure that you hit these thresholds every single time. So for that safe balance banking, this looks like you're either a student or under the age of 18 or enrolled in Preferred Rewards. The middle option of the Advantage Plus banking, maintain a $1,500 minimum daily balance, or have at least one qualifying direct deposit of $250 or be enrolled. Maybe this middle one people could probably do, maintain a $1,500 minimum daily balance, but you gotta make sure you have that cushion in there at all times. And then the Advantage Relationship Banking, maintain a combined balance of $10,000 or more in eligible linked accounts. By the way, they keep referring to this Preferred Rewards. I'll show you that here in a second. So to be enrolled in Preferred Rewards, you have to have a 3-month combined average daily balance to hit these different tiers. Gold tier of at least $20,000, Platinum of $50K, Platinum Honors $100K, and Diamond of $1 million. And guess what? When you go into their savings accounts here, I'll show you the rates. Again, 0.01%, which is just terrible, terrible on all account balances unless you're a Preferred Rewards member, and then they have the audacity to call it Gold, Platinum, Platinum Honors, in which you could get 0.02 to 0.04% in APY interest earned on those accounts, which is ridiculous. We're not even talking about 0.5%. We're not even talking about 0.5% in any of these options. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. If I'm thinking back to, let me go back to the savings accounts, because now we're going to get into the savings account. It requires an opening deposit of $100, and then take a look at all of these different statements, different things that you would have to do to bypass that monthly maintenance fee of $8 per month. So maintain a minimum daily balance of at least $500, link your Advantage savings account to your relationship banking account, or when you are a Preferred Rewards member, or under the age of 18 or under the age of 25 and qualifies as a student. So really, for most millennials, I find that maintaining a minimum daily balance of $500 in your savings account would probably work. But if we're talking about a savings account and we're really using savings accounts to park money like emergency fund or short to midterm goals like a down payment or saving for a new car, eventually we are going to deplete that money in the account. So then what happens after that? If you go under the $500 minimum daily balance, it's like you're gonna have to completely close the account or just keep the $500 $500 in there. Either way, you're on the hook for the $500, and I don't think that's fair. I don't think that is how savings accounts should work. But the biggest offender, aside from Chase and Bank of America, the biggest offender here, if you're banking with them, please get out immediately, is with Wells Fargo. Let's take a look at this system, and to me, Wells Fargo is one of the most predatory banks in the US. If you're banking with them, please stop. I will never, ever work with Wells Fargo. I'm not opening an account with them ever. And this is why. Let's take a look at their checking accounts. So again, the monthly service fees of anywhere between $5 and $35, but you could avoid the fee when you are either between the ages of 13 and 24, which for most of us, that's a no, we're older than that. A $10 monthly fee. If you can maintain a $500 minimum daily balance, and then that gets waived, or a $500 or more in qualifying direct deposit. So maybe this everyday checking could work so long as you meet those daily balances, and then the prime checking of $25, but you can avoid it so long as you have at least $20,000 in your linked balances. Now let's take a look here. I said that the everyday checking was probably one that most of us would qualify for, as well as avoiding that monthly fee. This is not an interest-bearing account. There is overdraft services here. There is a minimum opening deposit of $25 to open. Let's take a look at, all right, and in another page, weirdly, they had the same information on two different pages. Anyway, with their ATM fees, so if you use a non-Wells Fargo ATM to make a withdrawal from an ATM, $2.50, and then there are no reimbursements for non-Wells Fargo ATM fees. And a 3% transaction for any international debit card purchase. Let's take a look at their savings account. So they really have two options here: way to save savings, and then the platinum savings account. All right, so their standard interest rate on way to save savings is 0.15%. So a little bit better than Chase, a little bit better than Bank of America, because at least now it's not 0.01, it's 0.115, so I guess that's a little bit better. There is a minimum opening of $25, a monthly service fee of $5, but if you want to avoid that, you have to do one of the following each fee period. Every single month, this is what it needs to be: $300 minimum daily balance, one automatic transfer each fee period of $25 or more from a linked Wells Fargo checking account, and all this other stuff that you have to do in order to avoid that fee. Now, let me tell you about a personal experience that I had with Wells Fargo, not of my choosing. So I was part of my sorority's alumni group in San Diego, and they had a bank account with Wells Fargo, and they used that to help pay for sorority events, fees and dues, all that stuff. So when I became treasurer of that alumni group, I went in and had to be transferred into the Wells Fargo account. So this was something I inherited from my sorority group. They told me about a $12 monthly service fee that was part of the Wells Fargo bank account, and a way to avoid that fee was to transfer $20 from the savings account into the checking account, and then from the checking back into the savings account in order to avoid that. So I had to do additional work in order to avoid this monthly fee, which I find really ridiculous, because isn't a bank and a checking and savings account supposed to make my life easier, not harder, where I have to literally put it on the calendar that I need to transfer this back and forth, or set up automatic contributions back and forth between the accounts? I find that it was just a little ridiculous that I had to go through this extra step when it shouldn't be that hard. There's also a really amazing documentary documentary on Netflix called Dirty Money. They did a whole episode about Wells Fargo and the predatory events that took place throughout the years on its customers. In fact, they opened up millions of accounts without customer consent. They asked their employees, their bankers, to hit minimum quotas in order to open up new accounts for their branches. It got to a point where they were so desperate to hit these quotas that if they didn't meet them, they were fired immediately. It's a really eye-opening documentary, and that episode specifically really just drove home the point that Wells Fargo is just a really predatory bank, and especially goes after low-income and underbanked individuals that may not know the process of banking. And this typically is happening with minorities and people of color, and I'm not here for it. It is a hard pass for me. So if you're like, Justine, you told us the worst banks in 2023, like what's next? Who do we bank with? I encourage you to look. There's several banks, and I don't think I would possibly be able to fit all of the banks into one video that you could look at, because I don't know all of the banks. What I do know is when you do your research, when you're opening up a checking or savings account, look for high interest savings accounts. You want high yield savings accounts in order to park your long-term, mid-term savings, such as an emergency fund, car fund, down payment, vacation. You want a bank that is easily accessible online as well. So those high yield savings accounts are amazing. I've done a whole video on the best high yield savings accounts banks listed up here in the cards for you to check out. I personally use Ally. I've also tested Capital One. My favorite though is Ally, and let me show you what that looks like. This is great because they actually did a comparison. This was coincidence. I did not look at Ally before, but they actually did a comparison with what I consider the 3 worst banks in America. And you can see, comparing against their savings account, Ally has 0 monthly maintenance fees, 0 minimum opening deposit. They actually have a tool, savings buckets, in order to organize your savings, which is amazing. That's a free tool. And then also they have a tool to analyze any linked checking account. Does not even have to be with Ally. It can be an external checking account to move money over into your savings account that could work harder there for you. So surprise savings. I've actually found well, I didn't find it. Ally Bank found $900 in surprise savings from my checking account and pulled that over into my savings account and saw that it could work harder in my savings account. Also, let's take a look at the annual percentage yield of 3.75%. You cannot beat that, given that Bank of America and Chase are at 0.01%, ridiculous, and Wells Fargo is at 0.15%. This is a bank that I find is really working with the customer. Ally Bank is really working with the customer on the same side of the table rather than working against me like I saw with Bank of America, Chase, and Wells Fargo. And then another key point here is do your research when you are looking at opening up these accounts. Make sure that they're not charging any kind of monthly service fee, and if there are ways to avoid it, are those hoops attainable for you? Is this something where you're like, yes, I definitely always keep $1,000 in my checking account and I'm never under that threshold? Then maybe it's a win for you. But honestly, Chase, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America are not wins. These are losers that I think are going after us in all of the wrong ways instead of helping us. So if you want to check out that episode from Netflix, I will leave a link to that below on the Wells Fargo documentary. So good. Let me know, are you banking with any of these banks or is it somebody else? Let me know in the comments. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to join the Debt Free Millennials community, where we are all about building financial confidence to create more fun and less payments, and I'll catch you in the next one.